Kara Warner here again in the EW People Magazine Toronto studio. I am here with the wonderful director, Mary Herron. She directed Daliland. What was your exposure knowledge to Mr. Dali beforehand? Like, what made you want to tackle this film?
I think I knew what everybody knows, you know, famous images. I'd seen some of the paintings in museums. I knew that little about his private life, except, you know, I'd seen the films, the great surrealist films. Right. So obviously anybody who's interested in film, you know Dali as filmmaker and as artist. I didn't know his crazy and fascinating private life. Yeah. And so when the project came to us, my husband, who's a screenwriter, said, you know, there's a lot of stuff about art fraud and all the rest, but the most interesting thing here is this marriage between Dali and his muse and kind of somewhat dominatrix wife, Gala.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have two great actors playing them, Sir Ben Kingsley and Barbara, the great legendary German actress Barbara Sakova.
Yes, yes. And what was kind of your experience with Sir Ben? He said he just loved Dali so much that he missed him afterwards.
Yes, I mean, he was incredible. There was a couple times where I saw him walking in costume towards me down the hall to go onto set, and it was like, it's Salvador Dali. You know, it was so uncanny. And it's really not, because he had no prosthetics or anything. Yeah. It's an inner, and obviously he has, you know, the wig and the mustache, but it's an inner transformation. He really does commit and absorb, and it's almost like a spiritual transformation where he sort of meditates on the character. It's incredible. Focus.
Yeah. So fun to watch. And then I was mentioning earlier that I was shocked that Mr. Briney, that was his first film. How did you find Christopher Briney for your secondary character?
It was incredible. It was very last minute because someone had to drop out, and I scoured the drama school, all that year drama school showcases, and I looked at hundreds, you know, many auditions and showcases, and he just popped out. I was really beginning to despair. I thought, I'm never, you know, we're going to start filming in less than 5 weeks, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And suddenly he was there, and I thought, he's so perfect looking for this part. There's no chance he could act. You know, it would be too fortunate. And then I looked at his reel. That's kind of good. And then we had a Zoom, and he sent in his tape, and it was incredible. I knew even just talking to him on screen, it's like, you are this guy. Yeah. He'd never been to Europe before. He had never acted professionally, but he has such an instinctive, natural feel for the camera. And he's such a lovely person. I mean, and in a way, you know, as a young guy being thrust, the story is he's a young guy, and he said, I am James, when we had, I really feel I am this character. And he's thrust into a sort of crazy world with these famous people. And in a way, it's a film set is always a crazy world. Yeah. And there he is with these great actors.
I mean, that's amazing. It makes so much sense. How did you decide to do the flashbacks the way you did? Because I just enjoyed that as a viewer myself, like when you have older characters kind of watching their younger selves.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that was my husband's idea, and it was just, you know, because we discussed having these flashbacks. He wrote the script, but we discussed everything in great detail. Nice. And then he came up with this idea of somehow combining, because it's Dali's memories, and these are stories, and they're not necessarily even accurate stories. It's it's like Dali's movie of his life. Right. But it also, what if he enters the movie, brings James into the movie of his life? Yeah. And actually one of the things I love about those flashbacks is watching Sir Ben's face as he watches his younger self, and also the beginnings of what is now quite an unhappy marriage and their sort of romantic beginnings, and it's very kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Lastly, Sir Ben did mention just briefly that we don't have a release date yet because we are hoping to find that here at the film festival. What would be your dream sort of release or want for audiences to discover the film, whether it's, you know, streaming, theater?
I would love it to be in theaters. Yeah. I do, because you know, obviously I'm an old school cinema person. I would love people to see it. You know, I would love some people a chance to see it in theaters, and maybe you know, in some revival houses. There are great independent cinemas, and there's great movie theaters still. And then, you know, I have to say I'm grateful for streaming, because what it does mean is if somebody misses something, you know, and if you, down the line, you know, films used to have a short life, and they, you know, people discovered them or they didn't. Then there was video, and now they're streaming. So my hope is that somehow, in some format, people discover this movie.
Yeah, me too. Well, I thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.